So welcome Eka and Shriram to the Physics of Pranayama channel, the place for left-brained, right-thinking people.
Namaste. Thank you so much, Sandeep ji, for inviting us. It's glad to be back again.
Yes, Shriram, I know you've been graceful enough to come like a couple of times, but this is the first time for Eka. And I was thinking why Eka is not coming on this channel. So I was thinking that the first photo you showed me of Eka was the downward dog position. And I was thinking, oh my God, unless I perfect the downward dog, she's not going to come on the channel. So I have been doing it with full intensity for with complete rigor, Satatirga Kala, but it's not happening Drid Bhumi yet. So I'm thinking, okay, fine, that's the best I can do. So
yes, in fact, that is one of our classic postures. It's one of the most perfect downward dog.
It is the most
downward dog posture is one of the most iconic postures in the Yogasanas.
Yeah.
Not only it is photogenic, like picture perfect, but also it has so many profound benefits. Like it's a nice stretch it gives to the spine, and it's one of the three postures that the legendary yogi Krishnamacharya, he suggests that we apply the bandhas, the practice of the locks. He suggests that we apply in the downward dog.
In the posture, yeah. It's amazing. But Shriram was telling me, Eka, so you have a very hectic life, and I mean, you work long hours, and of course, you're teaching yoga, etc. So, what benefit do you see by doing the asanas that you can apply to your day-to-day hectic life?
So, particularly asanas, for me, I believe it gives me a lot of space in my body. So I feel very agile, quick to move. My movements are quicker, and therefore I'm able to achieve a little bit maybe quicker than average person. My task is just interesting observation for me, and
yeah, I mean, it's so true that what I think most people miss is that Maharishi Patanjali's Yoga Sutras are 100% about the mind. It has nothing to do with anything else but the mind. He's a mind scientist. And it's so amazing that one of the things we can do with the body is to put it in some various poses, and that somehow affects the mind to follow. It's brilliant. Have you guys seen that in your, like, of course you've seen it, but can you give me some specific examples where you notice that, wait a minute, this is now happening, which was not happening earlier?
I just want to share that my experience, and I know in Yoga Sutras, and usually they separate body from mind, but my personal experience that body is an extension of the mind. I have seen that with my patients, when the state of mind, and just you observe the face itself, the radiance, it's so connected. I truly believe that body is mind, meaning it's just an extension of it. It's so much connected. I hardly can separate it, even though I know theoretically people separate it, but in my experience, it's like that.
And it's interesting that one of the classic invocation or dhyana shlokas of Maharishi Patanjali, it starts with the words yogena chittasya, which means yoga is for the mind. And as you rightly pointed out, Sandeep ji, that yoga is primarily for the mind, and we use the practices for the body because it indirectly or even directly, one could say, affects the state of awareness. It transforms the state of mind. And as Eka said, my teacher also used to say along the same lines that the body is nothing but the physical aspect of the mind, and mind is nothing but the subtler aspect of the body. Yeah. It's all one thing.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yes, but it depends on where you put the anchor point. Like Eka said, the body is the extension of the mind, and I can say, wait a minute, the mind is simply, the subtle part of the body. But whereas the anchor point is the difference, I think, right? Yeah, awesome. So what I'd like to do is let's see your journey. So of course, it took, I'm thinking, a lot of practice for perfection of the asana, but is that the goal, to perfect the posture, or is the process more important than the perfection?
You want to start?
I can start. Yes. It's a very good question, and it can be both. So it's just like going can be in gym and having a bodybuilding. There are different goals. For example, I don't see anything wrong for a person to be motivated to do the postures. And I noticed that sometimes the universe is so compassionate that even the desire to perfect the postures is usually towards people who are either have a little bit of addiction, either to marijuana. I have seen, in yoga community, in asana, highly based community, because I do participate in those communities as well, like addiction to something, or to food, or to and then asanas replace this. It's almost like healthy addiction. But then at one point, after having that goal to perfect the posture, to look best of your, of your alignment, then it strikes you that, wait, I'm not going to be able to achieve it unless I let go. And then that inquiry about, okay, what is there beyond? Listening to a little bit of Patanjali Yoga Sutra, being a little bit more open towards theoretical side. So I would say it is addiction to get perfect posture, but it's a healthier version of unhealthy addiction. And I think the compassion of yoga is so strong that even with that type of addiction, people benefit. It's a journey, it's a bridge towards the deeper aspects of the true essence of yoga.
Mm-hmm.
So,
in fact, perfection truly is elusive goal. Because, for example, from my own personal experience, there are postures that my teacher taught me on my very first day of yoga. It was 30 plus years back. And even when I do the postures today, I see that, oh, I've made some progress since yesterday's practice. And it's always, there is a feeling of I'm growing in yoga. So there is always endless possibilities. We can never say that, oh, I've perfected it. It's not like obtaining a college degree. Okay, I've perfected this posture and that's it. Not like that at all. And also, perfection, of course, is not the goal of yoga, because ultimately, when we do the postures, it should feel good to us. And the sthiram and sukha, the stability of the body, and the comfort, not just comfort. In fact, there's a joy that comes when we are in a posture. So we enjoy the posture and the benefits automatically come. And what is our best effort today may be different from yesterday. Maybe today the body is not cooperating so much, but we don't think of, oh, I'm not as perfect as I was yesterday. It's not like that at all.
Usually in a class that I've seen, the student always aspires to be at least as good as the teacher. So for the student, that is perfection. Whatever the teacher is doing is perfection, right? But you're saying that even for the teacher, there is a sequential improvement that is happening that the student doesn't even see. I think that's what you're saying.
In fact, the primary beneficiary of teaching a class is the teacher.
It's the teacher.
It's also a student. We're all learning together.
Yeah.
In fact, for the International Yoga Day, there is one chant from the Rig Veda that has been chosen by the government of India, by Swami Ramdev. He chose this verse to begin the International Yoga Day proceedings. And it starts with the words Sangacchadhwam. So we're all...
Could you do the chant for us?
Together.
Could you do the chant for us?
Yeah, let me chant the invocation. It's a very beautiful chant from the Rig Veda. It goes, Sangacchadhwam saṃvadadhwaṃ samvo manāṃsi jānatām devā bhāgaṃ yathā pūrve sañjānānā upāsate.
And the explanation is?
So the meaning is also very beautiful. Sangacchadhwam, let us all walk together in harmony. As a group, we are all in harmony.
Yeah.
Let us all speak in harmony. Saṃvadadhwaṃ, vadati, to speak. So let us all speak, express ourselves in harmony. Samvo manāṃsi jānatām. Let us all be in harmony of thought. There could be disagreements, but ultimately it is also progressing towards building more harmony. And devā bhāgaṃ yathā pūrve. Just like the role models from the past, the great yogis, the great masters of yoga tradition, who have set the path for us, who have illumined the path for us, let us look up to them as role models and let us follow their footsteps and let us express ourselves in harmony.
Nice. Yeah. It's yeah, okay. So it brings up an interesting point, right? So I'm almost sure that there was never 100% agreement between all the yogis of the yore anyway. So Maharishi Patanjali was there, then I'm sure there were many others who were practicing, and then there were subtle disagreements, but the level at which the disagreements was resolved must have been so amazing that there was no shouting and screaming. They would be just simply discuss and say, all right, let's take this and let's go. And so have you seen anything in the scriptures that show that this was how it was?
Most definitely. In fact, these challenges that one stream of thought posed to another stream of thought, it helped in the progress of the yogic wisdom and yogic practices. To give an example, when we look at the darshanas, which are 6 systems of the Indian philosophy, so they talk about 3 of them are introspective. That is, they deal with the inner world, namely yoga, sankhya, and Vedanta. 3 of them. And each of them assert their position as the ultimate truth, and they challenge the other systems. And my teacher used to call it sibling rivalry.
Okay.
So nice disagreements that actually provoke more deeper thought and progress in each of the 3 systems as well.
Yeah, awesome. So, okay, coming back to this is very interesting. So, all these Sanskrit chants, somebody who's non-native Indian may be having difficulty in enunciating the shlokas, etc. So, is that an impediment to progress on the path of yoga? The knowledge of how to chant versus not even understanding the meaning of the words. For example, the 9 obstacles, right? The Maharishi Patanjali says some of them are like weird, like I don't know, Bhranti Darshan, and like those words are so heavy that I mean, somebody gets scared with the words itself.
Yes, it is not an impediment at all. And in fact, even without knowing the meaning, just by listening to the chants, there is some feeling of, oh, it sounds good. And in fact, that was my initial journey when I started with the chants. And in fact, Eka is a prime example.
Yeah.
She, when she was doing the Vinyasa Krama teacher training program with Srivatsa Ramaswamy sir, so she learned the actual Sanskrit chants of the invocation, and she, with determination, sheer determination, she was able to pronounce it and actually impress the teacher. You like to share about that? What is your experience with the mantra chanting?
It's yes, definitely. I think it's a matter of time. I think of course a person without a Sanskrit background will take a little bit longer. But I think people who practice yoga and people who do chant the mantras are so compassionate and so patient. And I have seen, for example, Shriramji, he would spell it for me in different alphabet. He will help me with pronunciation. So it's just a matter of desire. I think if a person has a desire, the teachers are there, because the teachers who teach this are already a so compassionate being. They will never ever, if student is interested, not help. It will take a little bit of a longer time, but absolutely possible. I don't think it's an impediment, because there are amazing teachers who can help.
In fact, I feel, to add to Eka's point, it is just an initial learning curve. And once we are past that, we start enjoying the practice and the learning experience of chants. In fact, the legendary yogi Krishnamacharya used to say that chanting is an integral part of yoga sadhana. And he used to qualify the chanting as being a part of swadhyaya, which is self-inspired study of yoga. And the chanting itself requires a lot of breath control. So you can also classify it as pranayama. So especially the Vedic chants, which have the intonations, and just like what we chanted before, the invocation from the Rig Veda, so the proper intonations, and it requires a lot of breath control. And also in some of the mantras, and because the pronunciations are so intricate, we cannot have our mind thinking about something else. It has to be totally focused. It's also dharana practice in that sense.
Also dharana practice, yeah. And also the subtlety of the tongue movements and all of this has to be, all the senses, it's also ekagra, the mind, everything comes in one. It's beautiful. I never thought of it like this, that the chanting can be an indirect way of essentially doing pranayama.
Yes. And in fact, one of the most beautiful pranayama practice that we do very frequently is the Om Namah Shivaya chant.
Oh, yeah.
And with the voice of Sri Ravi Shankarji.
The slow one.
Itself is such a beautiful pranayama.
The slow version, right? The
slow version.
Yeah, the slow version. Yeah. Okay. All right. So I'm going to now put you guys in a little bit of a tough spot. Okay. So please excuse me. So what I see is that 100% of the yoga instructors are what I call in shape people. In shape. Okay. But according to me, round also is a shape. Except I never see a round person teaching yoga. Like, what's up with that?
Let me go first. My teacher, from whom I learned for 14 years, my very first teacher. So I started learning from him at the age of 11. And he can be classified as a person of the type that you just mentioned. And in fact, he used to do amazing postures. Just by looking at him, people might think, oh, maybe he's not a person who practices yoga asanas, but he will surprise you and even shock you, because a very perhaps lean person. My teacher used to call them, like, if somebody is like a spider, and if they do some postures, there is not much awe in it.
It's no big deal. Yes. Okay. Yeah.
But with a body type like what my teacher had, and especially when people like that do the postures, and again, I don't want to use the word perfection, but when they express excellence, let me use the word excellence, when they give their best, it is actually a very inspiring experience.
So you're saying, but I still don't know many what I would call kapha prakriti people actually coming out in front and leading a class of 50 people. It's usually the vata pitta people who are doing that. Right?
Maybe the sample set that we are talking about here is just maybe outside of India. In India, for example, the birthplace of yoga, there are so many amazing yoga teachers who are of all body types.
Okay, right. Yeah, so maybe my data set is biased. Yes, it's possible. Yep. Okay, great. So what else can be the message, but so yoga is much beyond asanas, and somehow the International Yoga Day, what we do is we get 150 people and we do some Surya Namaskars and we call that Yoga Day. But yoga is so much more. I mean, if you look at the Yoga Sutras, the amount of sutras on asanas is maybe 3 or 4. It's nothing. Yet the posture has become the front and center of yoga. So how do we change this?
I'd like to quote one of the things that Eka said in a yoga class, and I'll also ask her to add to it. So most people's entry point to yoga is through asanas. you are right that there are only a handful of sutras of Patanjali's Yoga Sutra. There are totally 196 sutras, out of which a very tiny fraction, 3 of them, talk about asanas. But unless we value these 3 sutras that lay the foundation for yogasanas, the body becomes an impediment to go deeper to the level of the mind, so that we can settle the mind down in meditation. Because without body preparation, the mind gets trapped by the discomforts of the body and it's unable to settle down. We cannot go deep in meditation. So the practice of postures is an integral part of the yoga sadhana. It's one of the 8 angas, one of the 8 limbs of Ashtanga yoga. Would you like to add to that?
Yes, definitely. As a medical professional as well, it's impossible without movement. It's just, I have seen people who do not move. Their blood pressure goes high, their skin becomes fragile. It's maybe counterintuitive to think, because we feel more relaxed when we're resting and sleeping, but the design of this body is to move. And when we move, everything moves and everything is fresh. Body is able to change. So asanas are just integral part of succeeding into deeper aspects. They're not necessarily, probably must, because we have seen sages who achieve a very high state of awareness without it. But if we to respect all aspects of this human experience, then we need to move, and I'm not saying that the sages were disrespecting the aspects, but it's not needed, but it's going to be helpful. This is what I think. And also I would like to add, answering your question, asanas I feel are a little bit more to be more for everyone. It can fit for everyone just because of the nature of the movement. But what I noticed personally with myself, when I go into deeper aspects of yoga, it's very hard to make it general. It's really personal towards me. My experience, like it becomes like more one-on-one than to showcase that, because maybe my understanding or my experience in that moment may look a little bit strange to the person from different backgrounds. So it's interesting.
And to add to that, so Eka rightly pointed out that we have seen examples of great sages, great yogis, that perhaps they are not practicing the asanas, or they have transcended asanas, is a better way to put it. So when we look at the Yoga Sutras, for example, when we look at the sage Vyasa's commentary on the Yoga Sutras, what he says is, so Patanjali has given 3 streams of yoga practices, and one stream is Ashtanga yoga, which includes practices of the holistic nature that attends to the body, breath, mind, and even how we engage with the world, yama niyamas. But there are also other streams. For example, the stream of practices that are given in the first chapter, so which sage Vyasa, he classifies that as Samadhi yoga. Although Patanjali himself doesn't call it that. So Vyasa gives that name. For that path, the yogi or yoga practitioner deals directly with the mind. And that practice is only for adept yogis, he says.
For the ekagram.
For most of us, we need to have asanas, because that will profoundly elevate the quality of our inner practice.
Probably, right. So nowadays I'm noticing a trend, like in these, the world has now gone to 90-second bites, like Instagram and TikTok and all this. And there are these people, like they have these channels called, I don't know, for example, End Back Pain or some such channel, where they will come and say, oh, do this for 5 minutes, and they will do something. And they say, if you do this for 5 minutes, you're done. And then somebody will say, do child's pose for 5 minutes. Do, I don't know, plank for 5 minutes. What is your take on people following these 90-second snippets and thinking that, all right, now I'm doing yoga.
In fact, yoga practices, including asanas, pranayama, etc., they can be great way for therapy. If there is a specific condition in the body that someone is seeking relief from that condition. So yoga practices can be used as a therapy. And in my own experience, I have led therapy sessions, but it's always one-on-one. So it's not a general class where there is one 90-second bite where everyone does the same thing. And when we talk about yoga for low back pain, for example, to take that as an example, Eka, when she did her master's degree in nursing, her thesis that she wrote was on yoga and how it relieves, how it can relieve low back pain.
Low back pain.
Research, and she had done some research on that when she was doing her master's degree.
Nice. Is a copy of your thesis available to read somewhere? Or no?
Maybe we'll pull it and we'll make it available. She did an amazing work to look at the literature and what researchers have done with controlled studies and so forth. But the punchline is that yoga is, especially the postures, combined with the holistic segment as well, breath work and meditation and deep relaxation. That is very effective, one of the most effective tools to bring relief from low back pain.
Right. So this brings me to another idea I had. Like when people talk about prana, they're thinking breath, but they're talking prana. It's not the same thing. Prana is not breath, because prana is part of subtle body, breath is part of physical body. So there must be a map somewhere, or maybe it's time to create one, to map the subtle body onto the gross body, to see that the chakra is part of the subtle body, and also the nadis are part of the subtle body, but there is a mapping in the physical. So like the Surya Nadi, the Chandra Nadi, we are thinking of nostrils, but they are totally not nostrils. They are nadis. So is there some work that has been done to map the subtle body onto the gross body?
It's an interesting question. So when we look at the classic yoga texts, they give very technical definitions of what is the physical body, the sthula sharira, what is the subtle body, the sukshma sharira, and even the causal body, which is the karana sharira. And you can actually look it up. Adi Shankara has given all these definitions in one work called Tattva Bodha. Now, when we talk about prana, for example, prana is a very overloaded word because it has different shades of meaning. There is a technical definition of prana as well. There's a statement that Krishnamacharya used to quote. What's the definition of prana? Prakarshena anati gacchati tasmat pranaha is the definition. What it means is prana is that entity that is responsible for metabolism or heat in the system, as well as mobility in the system, that which makes us move from one place to another, and also responsible for circulation in the system. Anything to move within the body, for that you need prana. Of course, prana sometimes overloaded. It is used synonymously as the breath, and sometimes it is also used synonymously as life itself.
Life force, right.
Life itself. So prana has different shades of meaning. But when we want to clarify what is the technical definition of prana, then we have, you are right, it's an entity that energizes the system. Life force or life energy is how we usually translate it. And so the nadis, etc., and also the chakras that you mentioned, I've seen some of the texts make some references to different chakras being different endocrine glands and so forth. But the point is, when we look at the classic yoga texts, they all reside in the subtle body. And yogis have mapped the subtle anatomy, just like the physical or the gross anatomy, with all the vital organs, the heart, liver, lungs, etc. In the subtle anatomy, there is a corresponding map. So you have all these chakras and all these nadis, the marma points and all that. It's very fascinating.
But is there one source where this is authentically documented? Because on the internet, there's all kinds of garbage.
Yes, you are right. One of the classic texts that goes into the anatomy of the chakras, for example. It's called Shat Chakra Nirupanam.
Okay.
Shat Chakra Nirupanam. And there's a classic translation and commentary that was written by a British person who lived in India for several years in the early 1900s. And the name of the book is The Serpent Power.
Okay.
It is one of the classic texts on yoga, where he actually translates and gives a commentary of this work, Shat Chakra Nirupanam. And it's a fascinating work. It maps the chakras, what is the color of the chakras, how can we visualize them, etc.
Okay. Shriramji, but I think it is time for you to step up and collate this and bring it to the modern world, because you have all this stuff, it's in your head, or you've read a lot. I think you need to dumb it down for people like me who can say, all right, here's a one-stop shop and here's the thesis. There you can link it, but at least the source page is authentic. I'm thinking if I could commission you to do that, please.
Great idea to actually jot down, just like what are the main bullet points of, yeah, it's a great idea. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just giving you some more work in your already busy life. So
it's a fascinating thing, the study of all these scriptures. Can you imagine how refined the yogi's mind was in order to recognize all this? Even the fact that the left and right nostrils are different.
Yeah.
So it was amazing silence in the mind to actually sense that.
Yes.
And harness the power of that.
Yeah. And one of them is heating and one of them is cooling, and there is no way. I don't feel it, frankly. I know it as a theory, but I don't feel the heating or cooling of anything. I'm doing Nadi Shodhan, nothing.
My teacher used to say, even if we don't feel it, it is still happening. And with continued practice, when the mind becomes very sensitive, we recognize, we start appreciating, oh, this is how it's changing, it's transforming the system.
Yeah. Brilliant. So any last words on, how we can make yoga front and center in our day-to-day life?
Would you like to share?
I always say that yoga, if you're busy and you want to achieve more, that's the key. Yoga is the key. And it's been working for me. It's been working for people. It's just it's a, how to say, it's a gift. It's a gift to this world. I have practiced it. There are a lot of benefits out of it, and it's very suitable for current busy, interesting lifestyle.
In fact, what Eka said, that especially if people who are already busy, yoga will give further energy and to progress even more. It reminds me of a quote by Mahatma Gandhi. It seems he said once, oh, today I'm extraordinarily busy, so I need to meditate twice as much.
Twice as much, yeah.
It reminds me of also one more story my teacher used to say. When people ask him, oh, I'm already so busy, how can I carve out 20 more minutes or half an hour more to do my yoga practice? That's too much of a demand. And then my teacher will not answer that question directly. He always used to give this little story. So let me mention that story. So this story is set during the ancient Egypt times when people were building pyramids. So we all know how the pyramids were built. They dragged big blocks of stone, and all the hard work was done by the slaves.
Yeah.
So they were, hard physical labor. They were dragging the stones in the uphill, up along the pyramids.
Yeah.
And during that time, one very remarkable event happened in humanity. That was the discovery of the wheel. And so somebody invented the wheel, and they were so happy. Wow, we can make everyone's life so easy. So he runs to them and says, oh, do you know, I have something that will ease all your struggles. You don't need to struggle like this at all. This will make your life so much simpler. You know what they said? Don't you see that we are busy?
No. Yeah.
The same thing with yoga.
Yeah.
And if only we knew how much it will elevate the quality of our life.
Yeah.
And my teacher will always say that if you invest 1 hour more of yoga, you actually get 2 hours back.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. No, this is so amazing. So it's like Guruji says, only a person who is really busy needs to meditate. Or only a person who has to go shopping needs to have money. If you don't have to go shopping, what's the point of money? So if you're not busy, there's no need for you to meditate also. Same thing for yoga, I'm thinking. Yeah.
And to add to that, when we talk about yoga outside the yoga mat, so the practice of yoga is not just for the half an hour or 1 hour that we spend inside the yoga mat. Again, to quote my teacher, he used to say, one cannot be a great yogi inside the yoga mat and a great bhogi outside the yoga mat. So being a yogi is a full-time job.
Yeah.
There is a very beautiful statement in the Bhagavad Gita. Yogastha kuru karmani. Means be established in yoga first. That means a calm state of mind, samatvam, equilibrium state of mind. And once we prepare the mind to be in that state of tranquility, it allows dynamic action to take place. We excel in what we do, and not only that, we are able to accomplish much more. And to give an example, if you want the washing machine to spin very fast, we hope that the center of gravity is well anchored.
Yeah.
Otherwise, even a little bit, if it moves, it will be wobbling. So when we anchor the center, then we create the space for big movement, fast movements to happen.
Yeah. Well, that's beautiful. That is really nice. Yeah. Well, I'd like to really thank the two of you. You've taken out so much of your time from your busy life and, talking to us on Yoga Day, and the insights you've given are magical. Really, it's some of them I've heard before, but some of them are new. Like this washing machine analogy was totally new for me. But Shriramji, I'm going to not let you forget the task. Okay, you have to map out all this. You have to collate all this stuff in a nice format for the people like me who have. Okay, we are curious, but we don't know where to look. This kind of people.
I'm going to work with Eka because she's the medical professional.
Yeah. Okay. Well, really, thank you very much, and please, and let's do it again. It's so nice to talk to the both of you. It's really nice.
Thank you so much, Sandeepji.
Thank you so much.
And wish everyone a fantastic and happy Yoga Day.
Yoga Day.
Happy Yoga Day. Yes. Okay. Bye.